and boop, and boop. Ronin, the most broken class in the game and my most played because it's so freaking broken and amazing. My favorite is Samurai, as I said in my previous video, but I've played Ronin far more than any other class simply because it's so strong. And I'll show you exactly why it can be so strong with this build right here, starting with the techniques. Ronin is the support, he is the healer, but he can dish out heavy damage on top of it, but we need to make sure he also does his heavy healing. So of course we're going to be running Healing Incense. You put a little AoE on the ground and it will heal in a circle, and everybody who stands inside will get a nice little heal over time. Next thing we run is going to be Enhanced Ghost Weapons. Increase damage from all ghost weapons by 50%. 50%! That is huge! And guess what? Ghost Weapon isn't just Ghost Weapon 1 and Ghost Weapon 2. Your Bomb Pack is a Ghost Weapon, Way of the Flame is a Ghost Weapon, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But you actually have 4 Ghost Weapons in total, not just 2, so this benefits you tremendously. So we're definitely going to be running this. The Weakening Burst, I mean, sure, it sounds nice to do a Weaken in an AoE, but you could, if you really wanted Weaken, you could run Dirt, and with Weaken on that, you could easily weaken a bunch of enemies with that. And frankly, it doesn't last long enough to really be worth it, and you want to conserve your resolve anyway. Not worth it. Alright, and then 15% cooldown reduction on the ability. Now, I did say this in my older Ronin video, and if you want to go more defensive, sure, this is still the best option, but this is a much more offensive Ronin build to try to squeeze out as much damage out of Ronin as possible. So I will say, run the Ghost Weapon trait. It works very, very nicely. I like it a lot. Now, for Tier 2, we don't care about the 15% more stagger damage. We don't care about the 1 more resolve. Increased healing received in health regen by 50%. Healing received increased by 50%. That is huge. That means while you're standing in your circle, that means when you're popping your ultimate, which we'll talk about in a moment for Tier 3, where this does this heal over time, or if anybody else does this, or, you know, if you're hitting the healing drum, or if you're picking up the ghost offering, you're gonna get 50% more healing. Or if for whatever reason you're using the healing gourd, the ghost weapon too, you're gonna get 50%. This is insane. It's a huge number. It's freaking crazy. You can't not run this. It's so good. And then lastly, as I already said, we're going to be running Soothing Breath. Breath of Izanami now applies a heal over time on all players for 8 seconds. This heal is absolutely insane. I mean, I'm sure most people who've played the game at least a little bit, you're familiar with this. Getting revived with this, it'll get you back to full HP. It's crazy. Point. And all shall rise again. You can't not run this, it's so good. Now, it used to be the case if you wanted to do a lot of damage for Ronin, you would consider this to do the burn around the revives, which would do a lot of damage over time nearby enemies. You don't need this anymore. You can still do the heal over time with this and still dish out heavy damage thanks to the rest of this build that I'm going to show you in a moment. We're going to go ahead and move on to the gear, and you'll see a nice little summary here, easy to refer back to, but let's go into detail. All right, starting with the katana, just like with the samurai, as you can see, I use the same exact katana for all my characters. It is a water katana. Water stance is the best stance of the game, as I said before. Very fast attack animations. It'll work against shield enemies, sword enemies, and oni. It doesn't work well against spearmen, and that's when you use Way of the Flame. Way of the Flame is unblockable, so you can tear through spearmen very, very easily, but you don't just have to use it for that. You can also use it on anything, really, just to tear through an enemy faster. It's bonus damage, and because it does count as a ghost weapon, it'll help you for your bonus objectives, where you need to kill enemies with ghost weapons, and it'll also benefit from all these damage boosts that we're using, such as the 50% increased damage here, as well as the damage increases from the kunai. You see we have damage increase plus 20%, damage increase plus 14.4% right there. Remember, for those who don't know, that damage increase is not for everything. It's only for the ghost weapons. You can see right here, damage increase increases damage of all ghost weapons. So we have that on the caltrops, which is why we run caltrops. I'll get to that in a moment. We have that on the kunai, and we have the technique 50% more damage. It's going to hit much, much harder. Very, very nice. Yep.
Let's see how strong you are without power.
Let's see how strong I am without the others, huh? You got wrecked! That's how strong I am! Let's go! Alright, I do also run melee damage and melee stagger damage just to squeeze out as much damage and staggering out of the blade as possible. Alright, nextly we have the bomb pack. Some people don't know this, the bomb pack actually counts as a ghost weapon. I honestly wish they were more clear about this in the game, but the bomb pack does count as a ghost weapon. I tested it myself. You will get that 50% damage bonus on it, and you will get these other damage increase bonuses on it as well. So you're pumping up the damage of the bombs as much as possible. Very, very handy. Now, as for the perks, we don't care about status. We don't care about status effect, duration, status effect effect damage. So we're going to run melee stagger damage, and we're going to run blast radius, of course, to have the bombs have as big of an effect as possible. And as for the third tier, we are going to be running flash bomb. We don't care about assassin unlock, of course. This is a Ronin using it. Black powder bomb is good if you're going a burning build. It's an absolute must if you're going burning. This is not a burning build. We're not doing burning. So use the flash bomb so you can get those stuns. It's pretty nice CC. You can throw it into a group or even on an individual enemy you really don't like, and you can hold them in place for you to finish them off. No, I don't like you. Nope, you don't get to move, sir. You don't get to move. Nope. I didn't say you get to move. Nope. Flash bomb. Next, we have the Charm. I am running a Ronin Charm. Now, I did say for the Samurai build that you had to have the Samurai Charm. It is so helpful and instrumental. You don't have to have the Ronin Charm. There's only one exclusive thing that comes to the Ronin Charm that I'm using. I'm not even using the other perks because they're not really that great. It's this one right here. Healing Incense Radius plus 99.1%. That Healing Incense, once again, if you forgot, that is the ability where you put the heal on the ground. That's this right here, Healing Incense. So you see it's a circle on the point. My circle is 99.1% larger. Let me show you exactly what that looks like. So this is what the healing circle looks like without the Healing Incense radius buff. Go ahead and pop it.
Don't worry, I'm here.
All right, so he's in the middle of a circle. You can see it doesn't quite reach the whole point, but it's pretty large. Now here's what it looks like with 99.1% radius increase. Look how wide that goes. That is freaking insane. And that's why I say it's worth it. You have a lot of space to work with to fight on point, even a little bit off point, and still get that healing for yourself and your teammates. So that's crazy. That's absolutely insane how big that can get. And that is why I actually run the Ronin Charm. And aside from that perk, honestly, these other ones aren't as, like, they're not super strict. I just run stagger damage, so once the enemy is staggered, they take bonus damage because, I mean, I do have melee stagger damage on the caltrops. I have melee stagger damage on the bomb pack. I have melee stagger damage on the water katana. So I'll stagger enemies pretty reliably, and then I get a bonus damage once they are staggered. I mean, really, I was just trying to look for any sort of DPS ability that I felt would be relevant. I would have loved damage increase. That's one thing I don't like about the Ronin Charm. It does not have damage increase. You can't buff the kunai damage on it. So if you wanted to maximize your kunai damage, you would not use a Ronin Charm. This is a bit more of a supportive heal perk. It's just that's such a huge increase. It's really, really hard to ignore. Now, it's worth mentioning there are some other exclusive perks for the Ronin Charm. There's Healing Incense duration, but it's only 20 to 40%. And thanks to the legendary kunai, which I'll get to in a moment, I didn't really feel like that duration increase was necessary, but you can run it if you want. If you want extra support, definitely take the radius first so you can like cover that whole point and then some. But then if you wanted to run duration on top of that, go right ahead, you can. Healing Spirit Radius, I'll explain what that is in a moment. It's not related to Healing Incense. Weakening Burst Radius, we're not using Weakness Burst, so we don't care about that. So yeah, in terms of DPS, I ran stagger damage, but if you want to run Healing Incense duration, by all means. Now, as you can see, I do run health increase on the Charm because it's very nice to have that extra 25 HP. As I said in my Samurai video, you will get a lot of value out of this because, you know, sure, if you want to increase your damage with, I don't know, like, whereas impactful throws where you knocked an enemy down and they're staggered, you can more easily finish them off. I mean, that's great and all, but if you're dead, your DPS is 0. Put on the extra 25 HP. If you're playing Nightmare, if you're playing Raid, you need that extra HP. It'll keep you alive, and you can keep doing damage. You can keep healing people. You are the support. You are not the guy who should be going down first. You should be the guy going down last, if at all. Keep everybody alive. You're the backbone of the team, okay? Now, if you were curious about what these other Ronin Charm perks are, Spirit Bear. So your spirit animal summons a bear instead of a dog. So Spirit Animal, of course, is the other ability. It's right here. It's 65-second cooldown. This is 42, so it's a bigger cooldown. So instead of getting the dog, you'll get the bear. If you're not familiar with the bear, it's the same exact bear you get when you're doing survival that you can buy from those shrines with the currency at the top right. It's the same exact bear. So it's better at staggering enemies. You know, it'll gnaw on them, grab them, like shake them around and like toss them. So they're CC'd for longer. They're more vulnerable, which is pretty handy, but we're running the heal. It's better. Now, there is Healing Spirit, which your spirit animal has a healing aura. Now that might be tempting. You might think, oh, well, why not run that? Then I have the heal and the animal in one. Well, I mean, yeah, but first off, you have a bigger cooldown, 65 seconds instead of 42. So that's like roughly a 50% more cooldown. That's not pleasant, number one. Number two, the circle is much smaller on the spirit animal. And yes, there's a perk where you can make that circle larger. You would run that instead of the Healing Incense one. And the animal's going like off on its own all over the place. You're trying to heal your team, and if your animal's going all over the place, that's not great. So the Healing Incense is much more reliable. I don't advise using the spirit animal heal perk, but I mean, it's there if you want it. I didn't like it at all. The circle is much smaller. Yes, you can make it larger, but it's not going to be nearly as large as you can make the Healing Incense radius thanks to this perk right here. Okay? All right, now moving on to the bread and butter of the build, the Spirit Kunai. I was already bragging about this thing in my Samurai video, and it's even better for the Ronin build, simply because the Ronin has something the Samurai doesn't. And that's this: increased damage from all ghost weapons by 50%. So your Kunai has that additional 50% damage bonus. The Samurai doesn't have that, which means you're more reliably able to one-shot certain enemies, most of the time on lower difficulties, but occasionally you can even do it on Nightmare. Look, I instantly got my cooldown. Instantly got it again. Let's get them in a nice little cone. Boop, and boop, and boop. It is absolutely insane. Yes, the cooldown, the 15 seconds does count for the kunai themselves, and if you kill 2 enemies with them, you'll get 30 seconds of cooldown reduction, which gets you your kunai back instantly. You won't be able to do that very often on Nightmare, or maybe even on Gold. No, it's, Gold you can get it sometimes. You won't be able to do it so much on Nightmare, but it is possible, and it's pretty freaking hilarious. But at least you can still finish off a low, even Oni, if he's low, you can finish him off and get 15 seconds off your cooldowns. What do you know? Even some Nightmare enemies can be one-shotted with the kunai. Yes, this is absolutely amazing. As you can see, you get your cooldowns back if you finish an enemy off with the kunai. So what your goal is to get an enemy really, really low, and when they're about to die, throw the kunai, finish them off. Give it about a half second, let them finish their staggered animation. If you throw the kunai as quickly as possible, it's buggy, it'll miss. So when you're about to finish them off, give them about a half second to recover, and then finish them off with the kunai, and you'll get that cooldown reduction. Very, very nice. And as you saw, in the rare circumstances on higher difficulties where you're actually able to kill 2 enemies with the kunai, you will restore 30 seconds of your cooldown, which will actually give your kunai back instantly, in addition to removing 30 seconds from the cooldown of all your other items, which is very, very nice. Now, as for the modifiers on this, we're trying to squeeze out as much damage as possible. I run melee damage so that the ghost weapon is increasing the damage of my katana, which is nice. And then damage increase the damage of the katana itself, as well as the caltrops, as well as the bombs, as well as the Way of the Flame. All right. And I do run super massive just to increase the damage of the kunai more and more. Now you might think, oh, why not run hidden blades and get up close and use it like a shotgun spread? I haven't found that to be super reliable. First off, I mean, number one, you have to be really close to do it, so there's that condition. Number two, it just doesn't seem to work super reliably. I have difficulty getting all 5 blades to connect on one guy. It just feels a little bit buggy. Super massive will be much more consistent. And then also, what's really nice about super massive, you won't always use this to secure cooldown. Sometimes you might literally just use it as a kunai, just to secure a little bit of CC and do some damage. In which case, yeah, Supermassive will stun anything, even Oni. It'll stagger them a little bit. And as for the smaller guys that aren't Oni, it'll literally knock them onto the ground. So it's very, very handy. I love it. Now, as for the caltrops I run, I know Smoke Bomb is very, very common. You can run Smoke Bomb if you want. It's a more defensive option. If you run Smoke Bomb, then take cooldown reduction on kill, and then you can run Lucky. Or you actually, no, I wouldn't run Lucky. I would run Munitions. I would run Munitions, because if you pop the Smoke Bomb, what Munitions will do, it'll make it so that a little bit of ammunition will drop on the ground. By ammunition, I mean your bombs. You'll be able to pick up a little bit of extra bombs on the ground, which you can use to farm a quick ultimate. You can use them to do damage, whatever you want. Very, very handy. That's a more defensive option. Personally, I like to do damage, and I like caltrops. And frankly, I mean, you might think, oh, but you're the healer, you need to stay alive. Dude, you could stay alive with this. Don't sleep on caltrops. They're actually not that bad. With deep bags, you make a pretty nice circle, and if an enemy runs across them, they'll take a lot of stamina damage. And actually, I'll put it in the middle of a point. If I get chased by enemies, they'll run through the caltrops, and a lot of them will stagger without me even touching them, which is very, very nice. And not only that, because you have so much ghost weapon damage as a Ronin, you'll actually notice the caltrops do some damage of their own. I actually used to think they didn't do any damage, but actually the caltrops themselves do a little bit of damage, and you actually start to notice it because you have such a huge damage boost as a Ronin with all these perks that I'm showing you in the build. But it's not really about the damage, it's much more about the stamina damage. You stagger enemies really, really reliably, and you'll always have that melee stagger damage and that damage increase just by having this equipped, whereas the Smoke Bomb is only going to give you value right when you use it, you know? And then all the perks are related to cooldown reduction, because you can't get melee stagger damage or damage increase on the Smoke Bomb. It doesn't exist. It's all about stealth attack damage and stealth, which is why I put cooldown reduction instead. And I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a like and comment. It does help out a lot. I do upload a new video every single day, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out. I also stream daily on Twitch starting at 12 p.m. Central and ending at 4 p.m. Central, so make sure you follow me there to catch when I'm live. Link is in the description. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had fun, and I'll catch you next time. Another bear. I believe in you, bear. You can do it. Beat him. You are superior. Defeat him. Defeat him. Yes. No. Be avenged.
Ghost knew no enemy could defeat them.